Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I have some Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition Narrative Nitrous for you. Straight from the American Civil War, alright? And the main theme today is the idea of what if the villains in your campaign create something that is helpful at the regional level or even at the kingdom level for that helps all people within the region, all people within the kingdom for years, decades, or even centuries. What does that mean to your player characters? How does that change the texture of your villains in your Dungeons & Dragons game? All right, so let's jump into this. Okay, so first of all, let me define what Narrative Nitrous is. Narrative Nitrous is, you're a dungeon master out there. You have your 10-second campaign running along at a good pace. Everything is going well. Your players are happy, right? And your campaign's going good, right? But you want to hit that Narrative Nitrous button. You want to hit that button on your campaign that's going to make your campaign zoom ahead of your DM competitors. DM competitors? What are you talking about, Scott? I don't know if you know this. You are competing for your players, right? Good players have options today. They can go and get a nice online game. They can go find another table. They can go into a 1x1 game. They can go watch a movie. They can go watch, play a video game another 4 hours of 2 to 4 hours of their life, depending on how long your sessions are, right? You compete for your players with other dungeon masters, right? And also with with American culture itself. Okay. By the way, my content is is American centric. Okay. I absolutely invite all international D&D players, but I'm not going to pretend that I'm able to speak to your play situation, because I do know Dungeons & Dragons is not as available everywhere in the world, right? So I'm talking about people who can get every book and those kind of things. So I just wanted to put that caveat on it. All right, so that's Narrative Nitrous. All right, so let's talk about the Narrative Nitrous that you can apply to your current Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition campaign to make your villains have more texture. Okay, more pop, right? If you have some thinkers in your group, this is going to help them really be engaged with your content, your Dungeons & Dragons content. All right, excuse me. So here we go. All right, so I am reading a fantastic history book right now. It's called Nathan Hale's Hazardous Tales, Big Bad Ironclads. Fantastic book. I absolutely love this book. I highly recommend it. And it tells the story of Civil War ironclads. So that is ships that put iron on wooden hulls, right? This is a big freaking deal, right? Why are ironclads a big deal? Well, today, for all of our shipping, ships, and for all warships, we use iron. Actually, we use metal alloys. Okay, we don't use iron anymore, but we use metal alloys, right? And this makes these ships much less likely to sink, much safer for the sailors on board, much safer for the content that is on board. And the content can be medical supplies, like really critical food, all kinds of things, right? So without a doubt, right, the invention of the ironclad warship has massively helped American culture and arguably the culture of the entire world for centuries, right? So this came out in like 1860. It's over 100 years now. So I guess one X century, right? 1.x century. Because it's at this point, ironclad ships are 160 years old. Okay, so here's the kicker, right? I did not know this. I learned this from the book Big Bad Ironclads. You know who invented the ironclad? The Confederacy. The Confederacy launched the first, actually, I should say, you know who made ironclads a reality, right? Because there's always a little bit of murkiness about who invented whatever, right? But the organization, the entity that made ironclads viable and that proved to the world that you could wrap a wooden hull in steel and it would float, and not only would it float, but it would function as a powerful, massively dangerous weapons platform and a very functional boat, was the Confederacy. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? The Confederacy invented ironclad ships. Like, that's incredible, right? I would have never, ever, ever, I would have never guessed that. Never, right? Now, I'm not saying that the Confederates were villains, right? But if you want to say that they were on the good side of that argument, you might have a tough time defending that position, right? Like, you know, America is a nation, and the Confederacy is like, why don't we crack this nation in half and split it up? That's not nice. You're not on the good side of the fight, right? You know? But, so that's the thing is, the Confederacy, in my opinion, they really weren't, they were not the heroes, you know, in this situation. In your Dungeons and Dragons, you're going to have heroes and you're going to have villains, right? In the Civil War, we had heroes, right? I'm not going to point at which side were the villains and say they were villains, but they certainly weren't the heroes, right? So when I read this, that the Confederacy had actually invented ironclads, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that. So I didn't know this, but the North made this super dope, a super awesome frigate, right? And it was called the Merrimack, and it was wooden, okay? It was the coolest, most up-to-date modern war vessel, naval war vessel that existed. It was incredibly impressive, incredibly dangerous, right? They had it down in Virginia, and as soon as the Civil War broke out, Lincoln was like, go get the Merrimack. We need that super dope ship to, like, you know, wreck some fools in the Confederacy, right? And so they went down to get it, and so actually he sent some agents down to get it, and they failed to get the Merrimack, right? In fact, Virginia joined the Confederacy. I was like, whoa, you know, like, and where the Merrimack was, and then essentially then, you know, Virginia soldiers went to get the Merrimack, and the Northern people who were controlling the Merrimack at that moment, right at the time of secession of Virginia, they were like, oh my gosh, we can't get the Merrimack out of bay fast enough. We got to burn it, right? So they burned it and they sank it, right? But they only burned it for like 10 minutes and then they sank it. And then the Confederates came and they hauled up the perfectly good hull of the Merrimack, slapped iron on its sides, and made the first super dope ironclad. That is epic. I'm like, whoa, that's crazy, you know? And it's a big deal because they proved that this could be done, right? And the work that the Confederacy did is helping people today, right? Now, think about your D&D game. You have heroes and you have villains, right? What if your villains are going about their villainous acts, right? And then they do something that inarguably will bring benefit to the region or to the kingdom for years, decades, or centuries. If you're lucky, one of your super smart players is going to recognize it and may bring it up as a conversation point in player character with other player characters. That is gold content, right? They're like, hey, you know, I know this super evil wizard has all these thralled up orcs and is going to invade all the towns on the south side of the kingdom. We should definitely stop him. But did you notice that he made a way to duplicate healing potions and turn one healing potion into 100 healing potions? And also, you know, the magic he used to do that has already been traded to some other wizards who are not on his side. How do we now, you know, totally go to war against this person when the reality is what they've done may actually help the kingdom for years, decades, or centuries? This is where you want to land your game, where your players are having philosophical discussions, right? Or saying, is there value in this villain, right? That is what puts you ahead of the DM down the road who wants your players, right? And wants to you know, shave off one or two of his scrub players or her scrub players and bring in some of your top-notch players, right? This is how you keep your game sharp. This is how you keep the smartest, most engaged players, by finding the narrative nitrous that is already in your life, in the video games you're playing, in the novels you're reading, in the shows you're watching, right? Take the best and inject it into your Dungeons & Dragons campaign of narrative nitrous. That's my idea for narrative nitrous for your games. What are your thoughts? What do you think as far as making your Dungeons & Dragons villains have more depth, right? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful millennium.